bought plane tickets to Berlin in a crazy leap of faith. Why would you leave Canada and come to Germany? Like, I wish I could go to Canada. And then I start going like this and listing off the reasons why I left. And they're like, oh, really? I didn't know that about Canada. I just didn't want to live in a society that is live to work. I wanted to live in a work to live society. And I was like, surely there must be more than this. You're always one emergency away from everything ending. So Germany has actually given me the economic conditions that I could actually heal, because nothing's got to give. I sometimes also just like want to like shake Germans. I'm like, you guys have no idea how good you have it.
My guest today is Deidre Olsen, a Canadian writer who carried years of self-neglect and personal struggle across the ocean to Berlin. In this city, she began a new chapter, one shaped by honesty, discipline, and deep healing.
Berlin can be a very dark place. There's a very specific emotional underbelly of Berlin that I think comes with its history of divisions. And there's a lot of things that I miss about Canada, but there's a lot of things I love about Germany.
So one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's in Berlin or in Germany who is also in this healing process from a trauma?
We want to thank one of our sponsors for supporting this podcast. WonderTax is a platform that makes your tax declaration in Germany easy. Try it out for free and only submit if you're fully satisfied. Visit gutentag.wondertax.de and give it a try. Now, without further ado, let's start with the conversation.
Deidre Olsen, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, happy to be here.
Again, congratulations on your first marathon.
Thank you very much.
It is impressive what you just said, that in just 3 months, you managed to train for a whole marathon.
That's right.
What's the experience about it? How do you feel? How do you manage to do it? I think there's people who prepares for a whole year.
Yeah, it was definitely an unhinged thing to do. I had never been a runner my entire life. I even was very, very, very outspoken about the fact that I despised running. But a series of unfortunate events happened in my personal life, and I needed a healthy coping mechanism. So during one of life's crises, as one does, I think it's like a very millennial thing to do, is join a run club. I've heard there's like 4 things that you do now. It's like graduate school, go to Japan, pickleball, and run a marathon. I've already crossed off a couple of those. So naturally, I joined a run club one Thursday morning and just didn't stop. Signed up for a 10K. You're like, okay, I did 5K. I could definitely do 10K. Okay, I did 10K. I can definitely do a half marathon. Okay, I did a half marathon. I can definitely run a marathon. And now I can run a marathon. I can do an ultra marathon.
Wow. What was the feeling for you? You had the feeling that you wanted to go somewhere or that you needed to run from something?
I think I was running towards a new life. Had pretty much the collapse of my entire world happen and was sort of like, what do I do in this ashes of my old life? I want to build a new life, and I'm not somebody, I would say I'm really a creature of reinvention. I've had my world end several times over, and so I've gotten pretty good at picking myself back up again, and I wanted to do something outside of my comfort zone, and I also needed something to give me a structure, routine, to get me outside, to touch grass, to be around people. And I needed something to work towards, a sense of achievement, community. So it really gave me all of that simultaneously. And just mostly to prove to myself that I'm capable of doing the thing that I once hated most. It was basically a major sort of like therapy, cathartic. It's like an exorcism simultaneously. It was a lot of things all at once.
Yeah, and I have seen that you have written for New York Times, Business Insider, and you have spent years writing about pain, about truth, and identity. What has all that honestly cost you personally?
I think I had a lot that was denied to me in childhood. There's a lot that I grew up not understanding. There was I had a lot of pain in a lot of pain inside that I didn't understand, because when you have traumatic things happen to you in early childhood, You don't have the capacity to comprehend the magnitude of the things that are happening to you. Yet simultaneously, you can feel that pain. You can't really understand it until you're an adult and you look back and you can process it. That's why I think that as adults, we're so affected by the things that happen in childhood. So I had a lot of terrible things in my early childhood that happened to me, and grew up with very severe childhood depression. And it wasn't until I became a writer and a journalist that I really was able to get to the bottom of the things that happened to me. And I think that I was led to writing as a form of taking my power back and having agency over the details of my life, the things that were beyond my periphery, that were out of sight, but that I could feel so deeply in my body. And that I spent a lot of time also disconnected from those feelings and seeking out ways to cope with the pain, largely through substance abuse and self-neglect. So I became a writer to process and bring myself back in connection with my body, to understand the pain I went through as a child and understand why I felt the way that I did.
Do you think that, I mean, because you have written all of this stuff publicly, why to choose exposure over protection?
Because I think that it's also really good to know that you're not alone. Sometimes some of the most difficult topics that I have written about, probably one of the first essays I wrote was for The Cut, which is a pretty big publication under New York Magazine. And I wrote an essay, one of my favorites, just 1 year, because I was self-taught. I just taught myself how to write, how to pitch. I got this first big essay. It actually started as a sentence where I had a realization in my early 20s. I had this one sentence one day come to my head, and that it was that self-neglect is a form of self-control. That for me, a lot of times people see self-neglect as a loss of self-control. And for me, it was a form of self-control, because I felt that if I can hurt myself more than other people can hurt me, then I'm in control. At least if I'm going to suffer and I'm going to be in pain, I'm going to be in control of who hurts me the most, which is me. So I had this kind of like sentence come into my head, this like realization, and I wrote it in a Facebook group. And I was like, I don't know exactly what I want to say yet. I just have this realization. I want to write an essay. And so I posted in a Facebook group, and someone was like, oh, I've never heard someone put it that way before. That's so interesting. You should pitch The Cut. So I worked on it for a while. I pitched The Cut, and like a month later, they didn't get back to me. I followed up, and they actually got back to me, and they ended up taking the piece. And I ended up writing this essay. It's about sexual violence in childhood from the age of 3, and about how that affected me and caused me to have self-neglect and substance abuse as a child and teenager. And it really resonated with people, because a lot of people don't want to write about these very taboo topics. And I had so many emails from people being like, I've never read something like this before. I've never seen the way that I feel. I've never seen it put like this. I've never had someone speak so openly about the effect that sexual violence had on me as a child. Like, this is the first time I see myself represented. So there's something really beautiful in knowing that all of those years that you spent alone as a lonely child, feeling like that you are innately flawed, like there's something inherently wrong with you, to know that you were not the only lonely child. There just wasn't a conversation around children's mental health, and there wasn't access to the proper mental health care in the 90s when I was a child. And I had somebody actually say to me after this essay came out, which had come from a single sentence, I actually had someone say, I've never seen this written about at length. You should write a book. And then this idea got seeded in my head. I should write a book. So it took me some years, but actually in 2020, right before I moved to Berlin, I was trying to force myself to apply to things, to put my name in for awards, to put my name in for grants, put my name in for residencies. I was never a very good student. I'm mostly self-taught. I have managed to get myself into a university and get a couple degrees, but in a very nonlinear way. And so I applied for a grant to write a book. I wrote it, I think, in like 3-4 hours. And I applied at 11:59, right at the deadline. Forgot about it. I was just used to constant rejection. And then I moved to Berlin, summer of 2020, August 2020. And in September, like just a couple weeks after being here, I got a notification in my inbox. I had completely forgotten about this. So I opened it up and I was like, oh, what's this? And I was like, oh yeah, that thing I applied for, like waiting to open up, looking for a rejection. Open it up. Your application is successful. And I had won a $25,000 grant.
Wow.
To write a book.
And did you write a book?
I wrote 20% of it. I had just moved here, and I was staring down the sublet hop, as you know, in Berlin, when you are hopping from sublet to sublet. It was locked down. It was locked down. So I was not in the right headspace to write a book about sexual violence. So the money ended up allowing me to breathe my first year in Berlin, to take the time to actually go to therapy. I ended up writing 20% of the book. But it gave me the space to do, which I think is actually part of the creative process, which is to just exist for a while. Because the pandemic was so difficult, and previous to moving to Berlin, I was living in Toronto, and me and my best friend we were both not wanting to be alive, and we needed to make an impulsive decision. And so we impulsively bought plane tickets to Berlin before the EU borders had even opened, in a crazy leap of faith. So winning this grant felt like I had made the right decision to come to Berlin. We chose Berlin because it was like the most well-rounded place in terms of queer-friendly and like diverse. Had the most options to stay long-term, like different visas, a lower cost of living. So getting that grant like just felt like, oh my God, I made the right decision. Like I am capable of something amazing happening. So I just took the first year. I was also newly sober at the time. I had been sober for less than a year. So I was really in a healing journey. So unfortunately, I didn't realize how re-traumatizing writing a memoir about sexual violence is. I had written essays, which are not too bad, but the excruciating detail with which you have to write a memoir of 75,000 words and the places that you have to go to. I was trying to write while I was living in Lichtenberg in an Airbnb with bedbugs, and it was just not the right time. So I think that it gave me a year to do the artist's work of rest and recovery, and to actually like see a therapist, to actually like pay for rent without being in constantly worrying about rent, because I had previously freelanced. So I just took the first year to just recover, really be comfortable in sobriety, really see a therapist, and just exist, navigate the Berlin bureaucracy. And I'm so much healthier for it. The book has still on hiatus, but I am hoping to return to it in 2026. Because I ended up doing a master's degree, and now I'm trying to get a German passport. And I've told myself that I would like to write the book from a place of abundance and not scarcity. Because I tried writing it, and
But I mean, but some people write their best when they're living their scarcity. Like, I don't know, J.K. Rowling's, or I don't know, when you're having your lowest, you come and your creative's on the highest. What's your view on that? But you okay, I get it, you need some sort of like tranquility on your mind or something to be able to explore those ideas, especially if it's a topic that opens wounds and can be triggering.
Exactly.
What was the thing that was did you visit Berlin before, or you heard about it, or what was this call for the city?
I had never been here. I think I might have seen people I knew that lived here. I have a close friend. She's since moved back to Vancouver. We went to high school together
Mm.
in a small town outside of Vancouver in Canada. And she lived here for 6 years. And I think I had like seen her Altbau apartment. And I think she was talking about how she got 5 weeks vacation at her tech
Mm.
job. And so having lived in Canada where you are always at risk of we have like several words for the ways that you can get evicted from your home. You can get dem-evicted, which means that they're going to demolish your building. You can get rent-evicted where they're going to renovate.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, I don't know, paint one wall and kick you out. And you are just always at risk of losing your housing or your job. You only get 2 weeks vacation. And like 5 years ago, I was paying $950 for a bedroom. And I was just like, I got laid off from my journalism job during the pandemic. And I was just like, there has to be more to life than this. Everything I loved about Toronto was getting killed. Like the no arts and culture, a comedy club or a gay bar or, a little old theater. Nothing could survive the pandemic. There's not the proper support in Canada for a lot of cultural institutions. So I also wanted to live in a city where there is a dedication to preserving arts and culture. I think at the time I had also seen like a headline about Berlin making nightclubs cultural institutions or something so that they get funding. Like I just wanted to also live in a place where I can have a long-term rental contract. It's not 1 or 2 years where I actually get paid time off and nothing has to give. It's not like I have one paycheck and it's going to be one disaster. My pet gets sick.
Yeah.
And it's the difference between me paying my rent. Like I just didn't want to live in a society that is live to work. I wanted to live in a work to live society. And I was like, surely there must be more than this. Surely there must be more.
And what was a moment where you felt, or that made you feel, that you truly belong here? Or have you had that moment?
Yeah, I feel like I have. I feel like I have lived multiple lives since I moved here. I think I've like died a couple times over.
Okay.
And actually, the last couple months have been the moment I think I've belonged the most. It's because I finally have made making friends and building community a priority. I spent the first 5 years here in my sobriety and basically trying to overwork myself to death as penance for the life I used to live, which was heavy with drugs and alcohol, very reckless. So I spent basically 5 years getting really into fitness, getting a master's degree, trying to get an apartment, just trying to like build a stable life because I've never had a stable life before. So I did that at the expense of building community, and I was very, very alienated and isolated. And so I would say I finally feel like I belong here after 5 years because I finally put the effort into making friends. And I also finally am like, I actually, as of 6 months ago, started drinking again after 5 years.
Okay.
And I would say that I went from an era of chaos to control, and now I'm in an era of moderation where I don't need to lock myself inside as penance. I can go out into the world and I can touch grass and I can trust myself. And so I would say now is the first time I actually feel like I belong.
Trying to be sober in Berlin, has it been a challenge? I mean, if you were trying to escape from alcohol and drugs, I think Berlin could look like a bad idea, doesn't it?
I actually think moving here sober was a very good decision because I think I was like 6-7 months sober when I moved here. And I moved here with a friend, and so fortunately I like didn't have to go into like the random veggie situation. Like, I think if I had not been sober and I had come here by myself and I had gone into a VG, like, I think it would have been a very different story for me. So I'm very,
Because of the loneliness factor, or why?
because I am I'm a very all or nothing person, and I am really affected by the environment that I am in. And I think just it's easy. I think it's easy to, when you come here, because I kind of cycled through some friends when I first moved here. I think that's kind of what happens. It takes a while to find people that stick. And many of the first groups of people that I met, like, they were people in their 30s, 40s that were like doing cocaine while working from home and like bragging that they like cleaned their oven really well. I don't know, just doing weird things that like I was trying to not be a part of. So that I could probably have been a part of. And I was really crazy when I was in Canada and I wanted Berlin to be a fresh start. So I don't know where I would be were I not sober. And I'm very grateful for that.
Could have been, because a lot of people I know, here's where they find like, wow, you can do anything here. You can, yeah, as you said, like working from home and taking substances and stuff like that. You said that, going a little bit back to your writings, you said that reading your childhood diary made you realize that you always knew that you were gay. What did it feel to read that younger self that you somehow already knew and
Yeah, that was crazy. That was, I think, the first time I went home, maybe the second. It was a couple years ago. Yeah, it was one of my first visits back home since moving here. And my mom was like, you need to get all your shit out of the attic. So she took down a box, threw it in front of me, and I was like, oh, okay. I pulled stuff out, flipping through stuff. Found one notebook. There was absolutely nothing through it. Flipped through it. And then I was like, oh, there's something here. I found one page and it was titled Confessions. And it was written on the eve of my 13th birthday, February 24th, 2004. And I was like, what? And I was reading through it, and it was an interesting portrait of my 12-year-old self, because I was like, oh, I put toilet paper in my bra. I stole candy from the grocery store. I wrote bitch on the chalkboard at school, and I'm scrolling, reading through it. And then all of a sudden I get so weird near girls. I think I'm lesbo. And I was like, what? Huh? And it was like very shocking to find, because I had no recollection of that. Otherwise, I thought that I realized when I was 18. So I had no recollection of, I have like memories of like staring at girls when I was a girl, but I didn't have any memory of like consciously clocking it. So it was very strange to see that I had like written it down. It's also kind of sad to be like, I think I was like, ew.
like in a little bit of shame that you felt that way, or why?
I think so. I think, like on one hand, it was cool because it corroborated. Like I really like to find, because I've had a lot of things denied to me, and because I'm a very like facts and figure person, it was really nice to like have evidence, to have like physical proof that I knew. So the journalist part of me was like, yes, like I finally have evidence. And then on the other hand, it was kind of sad to see like I was like, ew, because I think that I was in such deep denial that I didn't even remember that I actually did know. I think I just blacked everything out, because I thought because I was feminine that equated to being straight. So I think that I did actually know a lot of things, but I have just blacked so much of my childhood out that I just somehow was in such deep denial that the first memories I have of realizing were when I was 18.
And I mean, after going through that self-neglection phase, and now you're in a, say, like in a phase of healing, or are you there yet, or are you still in the process? And what are the small things that can help you to take care more of yourself?
So I'm actually kind of on the extreme end of my childhood. I'm actually like kind of OCD about being clean. So one of my biggest dreams has always been to just live alone and have my own home. So as of going on 2 years now, I finally found a freaking apartment in this city. I
Mm,
finally found an Altbau in a central neighborhood with my name on the lease. And
mhm,
I have put so much money into making it beautiful and
mhm,
exactly as I like. Beautiful towels. It's clean. It's spotless. It's minimalist. And having come from, this sublet hop, the Lichten
mhm,
bed bugs, I've been trying to create the conditions where I feel safe to write and I don't feel so overstimulated. And I've spent my whole life in scarcity mode, in fight or flight, in survival mode. And so I've wanted to have a home, a job, and to return to my book from a place of abundance and safety. So I would say I was sober for 5 years. I've had a pretty insane fitness journey. And I've spent at least $10,000 on therapy. Have lived many dreams over since I moved to Berlin, so now I'm pretty okay. I'm just trying to get through this last leg of getting this German passport so that I can just truly, I don't ever have to think about moving. I don't have to think about a visa. I have a
yeah.
safe rent controlled apartment and I can just write my book and relax.
And hopefully they don't change any thing in the law about getting your German passport.
Exactly. I've passed the Einbürgerungstest test. I just need the B1 and to pass the Probezeit. I've at my 5 years, so
Okay, you have everything. All the boxes are
I'm
taken.
almost there. I'm almost there. It's the last marathon. So I told myself I can only do one thing at a time. I told myself master's degree, German passport, and then I'm finally going to write my book.
Do you feel that you now finally deserve it? Or it feels like that, like when you have like the place, the Altbauwohnung, and everything as you the way you want it, is that coming now from the attitude of I can finally allow myself, or I can finally deserve it. Is that something that also changed in your mind to finally feel like you deserve good things? And has it been different in the past?
Yeah, actually, my 5 years in Berlin have been, I absolutely, like, I hated myself until I was 30 years old. My internal self-talk was every terrible thing that you can possibly say, I
Mm,
said it. I had a very traumatic, I have a tendency to cold turkey things, and I had a traumatic evening that made me quit drinking. Um, it was a life or death situation where I actually feared for my life. And I woke up the next morning and I told myself, if you don't quit drinking, you are going to die either by your own hands or in a tragic accident if you do not quit drinking today. And I quit drinking that day,
mm,
Christmas Eve. And for some reason, someone else's terrible behavior, for the first time, it gave me some value from my own life. I had some reverence for my own life. Like I was very, very, I always wanted to, I was always, since I was a child, I struggled with suicidal ideation. And it was the first time that I actually was like, I actually don't want to die. So I didn't drink for 5 years. And in that time, again, learning how to say no to drugs and alcohol, this slow process of fitness, that now it's almost like I am so self-confident. I am so self-assured. I am so resilient. I almost can't remember what it is like to have had that negative self-talk. I'm so like my self-trust and my internal dialogue is completely different now. This apartment is a representation of that work, that I feel that I not only deserve it, I'm destined to have it. It's very much nothing but the best for you, baby, these days. I'm really into taking myself on dates, romanticizing my life. Yeah, I think I had this time of control as penance, but this era of moderation, yeah, it's completely different now.
I guess when you want to write a book, and if the book is about your life, everyone wants a book with a happy ending. So you need to get first to the happy ending to be able to write about it, right? In a way, about the
Yeah.
healing process.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the end of the first book, I think the end of the first book is kind of um is kind of this feeling of realizing that there was nothing wrong with me. And I think that actually there is several books to come after that with I'm confident this journey in Berlin will be a subsequent memoir. I think I have many, many stories to tell. Yeah, but it doesn't always necessarily, sometimes it doesn't have to be a happy ending. It can be a moment of revelation. It can be a transformation. It doesn't have to be a traditional, it doesn't necessarily have to be traditional, but at least you come to a space where something transformative has happened and there is a journey, I guess. But it doesn't necessarily have to tie up neatly or be completely linear.
Mm. Well, where does safety live in your body today?
It's definitely right now running. It lives everywhere, even in my hip that actually really hurts right now, where I'm a little bit questioning my life choices. But
Well, I mean, the thing about this post-marathon blues, what I was talking with this other guest, a coach, he said like some people after the marathon, they get like this kind of like blues and then they want to keep going, but they need to recover, but they haven't recovered yet from the marathon and they end up having an injury sometimes.
yeah, it may well very happen to me. However, I have signed myself up for an ultra marathon in 2.5
How long
weeks
is
at
that?
50 kilometers.
50. Wow. You're
So
crazy people.
yeah, exactly. And I've actually manipulated 10 friends into doing it with
Wow.
me. So we're gonna all go down there and do
And
it.
then there's the Ironman, or what is the other thing that comes
Yeah, that's a
after that?
triathlon. That's like a crazy see, yeah, that's already on my list too because
Yeah.
I'm insane. And if I do something, it's always in an extreme. So, I mean, maybe next year, but for now, 50 kilometers is good for now.
Yeah. Um, how has living in Berlin changed your view of being Canadian and also queer, or queer would be the right word, or would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting. There's a lot of things that I miss about Canada, but there's a lot of things I love about Germany. Canada is most definitely more socially progressive. It's very safe. People are very, very friendly. But Germany has given me the ability to actually heal because of the reasons why I moved here. I get
Mhm.
asked a lot. People have this perception of Canada. They're like, why would you leave Canada and come to Germany? Like, I wish I could go to Canada. Canada's like the best country. And then
Wow.
I start going like this and
Yeah.
listing off the
Uh-huh.
reasons why I left. And they're like, oh, really? I didn't know that about Canada.
Yeah, I
So
mean, they maybe people think about the friendliness because that's something that a lot of people talk about, and not just because it's maybe the stereotypical thing that you sometimes hear as a joke, but actually I have heard from people that yeah, people actually are very kind over there.
yeah, people are absolutely very, very kind, but I was so constantly broke and in and terrified of losing my housing or my
Mhm.
job. Like my friends have like 3 jobs. I have a friend that works for the city of Vancouver. She has a full-time job and she needs to nanny and drive Uber Eats in order to afford the cost of living. It's just like the things that my friends have had to go through to afford a basement suite apartment on the outskirts of the city, and they're still paying 1,500 for a bedroom. So it's just like the scarcity, you only get a 1 or 2 year lease. Like the
Mhm.
thought that there's even such a thing as an unlimited lease or that when you sell an apartment here that like you have to take the tenant. Like there's just so many things
Yeah.
in Germany that like coming from a much more capitalist society, I sometimes also just like want to like shake Germans. I'm like, you guys have no idea how good you have it. Living in a culture of debt is also such a different thing. I haven't had a credit card since I moved here. Like everything in Canada is on a credit card. Everything is debt. Everything is loans. You're getting one loan to pay off another loan. You're always one emergency away from everything ending. So Germany has actually given me the economic conditions that I could actually heal because nothing's got to give. I brought my elderly dog here with me. She's since passed away. I was a student and I still managed to pay her vet bills and give her palliative care and try and save her life. I've been able to travel. I've been able to pay my rent. I've bought furniture, like brand new furniture. I didn't need someone's like grandpa's 70s couch that's stained. For the first time, I can actually have things that are new and I can actually have nice furniture. So Germany and Berlin specifically have given me the economic conditions that I can actually see a future in which I can be financially independent and I can have a nice life and I can write a book and I can actually maybe even be a full-time artist. In Canada, there's no way. It's never going to happen. With that said, I have been the recipient of something very generous, but that money in Canada is nothing for a year. Like you can't live off $25,000 in Canada for a year. Like there's just there's no way.
What's the one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's in Berlin or in Germany who is also in this healing process from a trauma?
If you are going through a trauma, Berlin can be a very dark place. I think that Berlin has there's a very specific emotional underbelly of Berlin that I think comes with its history of division and poverty and war and, the wall and the East and West. I think that you can end up being a part of its sorrow. I think you need to actively go out and be a part of Berlin's joy. And I think that there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of ways in which Berlin has been able to cross these divisions, make it through all of the different eras it's gone through. So I suggest going on lots of side quests and looking for the joy in the city. I think there's a lot of it here. I hear a lot of people say that it's a very angry city, and I have found in my experience being here, a lot of what I have put out has come back at me. If I have been angry, people have been angry at me. But I found when I just smile and I go on side quests and I look for joy and I look for community, Berlin smiles back at me.
When you look back at you and who you were before Berlin and who you are now, what has changed the most and what has changed the most in how you see yourself?
I think that moving to Germany is not for the faint of heart. I think that Berlin can eat you alive. Berlin has made me the resilient, resourceful, and very confident person I am today. And had I not been knocked down many times and wondered how I'd carry on and made it through the bureaucracy and the sublet hop and the language barrier and all of I think like Germany's like 50th on the list of like most friendly countries to immigrate to.
Yeah.
So I really think that if like you can survive and make it in Berlin, like you can literally do anything. So 5 years of having been in Berlin, I feel like I can pick up and I can go anywhere and I can do anything. I can run a marathon in 3 months. It's nothing compared to moving here and making it work.
Deidre, where can people find you, read your articles, and maybe stay follow up? When is the book coming out?
I mean, hopefully in the next few years. They say that a memoir takes 10 plus years, so it's okay. When it happens, it happens. I'm not going to rush the process, but you can find me on Instagram at Deidre Olsen or at deidreolsen.com.
It was a pleasure having you in the podcast.
Thank you. It was wonderful.